Foreword. Recovering Thespian, former third assistant, dog walker for some actor and current influencer. I remember the exact moment my soul broke. It was 2014, the year of our Lord. I was standing in the waiting room of a casting office in a strip mall in Burbank, nestled between a dry cleaner and a discount vape shop. The air conditioner was broken, and the room smelled of nervous sweat, cheap hair gel, and the distinct metallic scent of dashed dreams. We were all there to audition for a non-union regional commercial for a hemorrhoid cream. The role was satisfied customer number 3. I was prepared. I was over-prepared. I was a graduate of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, RADA. I had played Hamlet. I had played Macbeth. I played a tree in a very avant-garde production of Waiting for Godot, where the tree was the protagonist. I took this hemorrhoid commercial seriously. I had spent 3 days working on my relieved face. I had researched the biology of the digestive tract. I spent a weekend eating only cheese to understand the struggle. I created a backstory where my character Steve was a misunderstood architect whose career was stalled by his inability to sit comfortably during client meetings. I knew Steve's mother's name, Martha. I knew Steve's deepest fear, wicker furniture. I was ready to bring humanity to Steve. I was ready to show the world the pain, the tragedy, and the ultimate redemption of the hemorrhoid experience. And then there was Oxnard Montalvo. He was lying across 3 chairs asleep. He was wearing a leather jacket. It was August in the valley, roughly 104 degrees, and what appeared to be pajama bottom tucked into unlaced combat boots. He was snoring. Not a quite polite snore, but a loud rhythmic rattle that shook the potted ficus next to him. He looked like a rock star who had fallen off a tour bus and rolled into an audition. He had an half-eaten bagel balanced precariously on his chest. It rose and fell with his breath like a yeasty metronome. I looked around the room at the other actors. We were all polished. We were all holding our headshots. We were all doing vocal warm-ups. Ma, me, me, mo, moo, we chanted softly. When the casting assistant called his name, Oxnard didn't wake up. The assistant, a terrified intern named Brittany, who clearly reconsidered her life choices every day, had to walk over and poke him with a clipboard. Oxnard opened one eye, just one, and looked at her with a mixture of disdain and confusion, as if she were the one sleeping in a public place and he was inconvenienced by her existence. "Is there food?" he asked. His voice was gravel, not the cool kind, the kind that suggests severe dehydration and a diet of cigarettes. "It's your turn," Brittany squeaked. Oxnard stood up, stretched, and the bagel fell to the floor. It landed face down on the industrial gray carpet. He looked at it. He considered the 5-second rule. He considered the bacteria of the Burbank floor. He picked it up, took a bite, and walked in the room. He didn't have his headshot. He didn't have his resume. He didn't even have the sides, the script pages. I watched through the crack in the door. I had to see this train wreck. I needed to see justice served. I needed the universe to punish this lack of preparation. The casting director, a woman who had the tired eyes of someone who had seen thousands of men pretend to have rectal itching, asked him, "So tell us about a time you experienced relief." This was the improv portion. I had prepared a monologue about the time I found my lost puppy. Oxnard stared at her. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It was agonizing. It was excruciating. He didn't blink. He just looked as if she was a smudge on a window that he couldn't quite identify. The air in the room grew heavy. The camera operator checked his focus, unsure if the camera had broken or if time had simply stopped. Finally, Oxnard leaned forward, invading her personal space, chewed his bagel, swallowed loudly, and whispered, "I'm leaving this room now, and I'm taking this pen." He picked up a pen from her desk, and he did, and he walked out. He didn't read the line about the cream. He didn't smile. He didn't show relief. He just committed petty theft and left the room. I went in next. I was shaken, but I was a professional. I did my monologue about the architect. I cried real tears. I channeled the cheese-induced constipation I had inflicted upon myself. I gave it everything I had. I left a piece of my soul in that room. I showed them the raw, visceral reality of digestive discomfort. Oxnard booked the job. When I saw the commercial months later, they hadn't even used the footage of him smiling. They used a shot of him staring blankly at a wall, looking vaguely annoyed, holding the stolen pen. The voiceover said, "Find your peace, even when life is a pain in the..." It was brilliant. He was the face of a generation's discomfort. He was the Mona Lisa of rectal itch. He did nothing, and he conveyed everything. I tracked him down. I found him at a Taco Bell in Hollywood arguing with the cashier that a burrito counts as a beverage because it's mostly liquid if you wait long enough. I begged him to teach me. "How did you do it?" I asked. "I studied for years. I know Shakespeare. I know Chekhov. I know the Meisner technique." He laughed at me. He threw a nacho at my head and told me that Shakespeare was too wordy and a bit of a try-hard. "You're full," he told me, pointing a cheesy finger at my chest. "You're full of ideas. You're full of training. You're full of trying. You need to be empty. You need to be a vessel. An empty vessel makes the most noise when you hit it with a stick. Be the vessel. Be the hollow log." "But what about the craft?" I asked. "The craft is for people who build tables," he said. "We are not building tables. We are selling a vibe. Do you think I knew I was auditioning for hemorrhoid cream? I thought it was a casting for a cologne called Despair. It doesn't matter. The vibe fits everything." That profound nonsense changed my life. I realized I had spent my life trying to fill myself up with knowledge, with skills, with empathy, and Hollywood didn't want a full cup. They wanted an empty cup that they could pour their own soda into. I fired my agent. I stopped reading scripts. I started wearing sunglasses in the shower to protect my aura. I stopped memorizing lines and started memorizing lunch orders. And slowly, miracle after miracles, I began to work. Not as an actor, God no, as a presence. I booked a Marvel movie as a man who looked skeptical at Alien. I didn't say a word, I just stood there and thought about my laundry. The director called it grounded. I booked a perfume ad where I just rolled in black sand for 3 hours. The director told me to be the wind. I fell asleep. They used the take. I made more money in 1 year of doing absolutely nothing than I had in 10 years of sweating through Shakespeare. Oxnard Montalvo is a fraud. He's a charlatan. He is lazy, uninformed, unprofessional disaster of a human being. He owes me $40 for that Taco Bell meal. And he is a genius. This is the only acting class you will ever need. It is the unschooling of the artist. It is a map to the bottom, which in Hollywood is actually the top because gravity works differently here. Read it or don't. Oxnard doesn't really care. He already spent the advance on a jet ski he doesn't know how to operate and a colony of ants he plans to train as background actors.